Hi, I'm Paul Edwards, author of the Mourners Woods book series, and first and foremost, a monster kid. Tonight I'm watching Day of the Triffids from 1963. Day of the Triffids is kind of a bargain because really you get two completely separate horror movies all in one movie. The story of Day of the Triffids is that England is about to be subjected to a spectacular meteor shower. And they tell everybody, oh, don't miss this wonderful event. Everybody go out and look at the night sky and watch this amazing meteor shower. So most people do go out and watch the meteor shower, and they're blinded by it. Scientists did not see this coming. The light was too much, and most of England is rendered blind. When the meteors land, it turns out they're bearing seeds for space monster plants, the Triffids. Triffids are fast-growing plants that grow to the size of slightly larger than a human being in the shape of a tree, but the tree can lift its roots out of the ground and scuttle across the ground, crawling on its roots, about as fast as a human being can walk. So they're able to get around, and of course they are not only carnivorous, they eat animal life, including human beings, but also they are venomous. They are able to spit venom onto their victims. And so we've got two different disasters that strike England as a result of this meteor shower. Each one of these could have been a separate movie all by itself. You could have done, forget the monsters, you could have taken the monsters completely out of it and done a whole movie just on this meteor shower that everyone goes out to see, and then most people are blinded by it. And there are a few people who are left sighted. Of course, nothing has a 100% participation rate. There's always going to be some people that aren't going to watch the meteor shower, people that were asleep or had eye surgery and had their eyes bandaged, people who were in prison and had no ability to see the meteor shower. These people all still have their sight. So there are some characters who are sighted, maybe, I don't know, 1 in 20 people or something still have their sight. So you still could have done the same story with all the social unrest and the disaster component of the majority of the population being blinded. Especially, it was very effective when they showed things like aircraft in flight where the pilots have been blinded and they're radioing for help as calmly as they can, asking for somebody to talk them down. And there are other kinds of disasters that are caused by the blindness. You could have had a whole movie just on that. And separate and apart from this, you could have done a whole movie just with the plant monsters, without the element of most people being blinded by the meteor shower. You could have just done the meteors came, plant monsters came off of them, and started terrorizing everyone. Each one of those would have been an independent movie. The fact that they're combined together into this one narrative is a little confusing. I suspect that I know the reason why it was done. I don't know this for a fact, but I suspect that the author thought to himself, well, plant monsters are not going to be fast moving. They're going to be slow and lumbering. They're not going to actually catch anybody unless we give an extra impediment to the human beings. So we'll blind most of them. But that's not really a correct way of looking at the story elements here. They could have done the story just with the plant monsters. First of all, they could have just made the plant monsters move faster. Secondly, if they didn't want to do that, they still could have had them slow and lumbering. Think of the George Romero version of zombies. Romero's zombies are slow and lumbering, but they never get tired, and there are a whole lot of them. So they're still a major threat. And of course, if you're not looking and they surround the place that you're in, you've had it. They could have done Day of the Triffids on that basis and taken out the blinding element. So really, you get two different movies in one. And another thing that is a little confusing is that you get two completely separate plots going in terms of the characters. You have one set of characters who are trapped in a lighthouse out in the middle of nowhere, and you have another set of characters who are traveling the countryside looking for shelter. It's okay to have two different plots, or to have a plot and a subplot, as long as they are connected to each other. I use subplots in my books all the time. Every single one of my books tend to be on the short side. Every single one of my books wouldn't even be novel length if I didn't include a subplot. So that's fine, you can have a subplot. But the subplot has to be connected to the main plot. Here, this is just two separate groups of characters. The people who are traveling the countryside, the man and the little girl that he rescues from the wreckage, are traveling the countryside. And separate and apart from that, you get the people in the lighthouse. Two disconnected stories. It wouldn't have been that hard to connect these two narratives, so I don't know what the problem was there. I will say, though, that as a lifelong Doctor Who fan, all I could think of watching the lighthouse segment of the movie was a Fourth Doctor episode, The Horror of Fang Rock, where all of the action took place in a lonesome, isolated lighthouse that was under siege by a space monster. Maybe the writer of Horror of Fang Rock got some inspiration from Day of the Triffids. That could be. So Day of the Triffids is pretty effectively scary. It's well done. The Triffid effects are well done. And one thing I liked is that they didn't overuse dramatic music, which was a common problem in 60s movies. They kept it quiet for some of the tense scenes, which added to the effect. And of course, it turns out late in the movie, we discover that the Triffids are drawn by noise. So that couldn't do anything other than remind me of the Quiet Place film series, where you have to keep quiet or else the sound-based monsters are going to find you. The way the Triffids are ultimately dealt with is pretty good. It seems to come a little bit out of nowhere, but it's effective. And the story is wrapped up pretty tightly. And the movie doesn't drag on. Once the story is done, it's done, and that's the end. So there are a lot of good things to say about Day of the Triffids. I'm just not sure that combining two different movies into one was the way to go. If you enjoy classic monsters and vintage horror, you should check out my book series, the Mourners Woods books. I'm self-published on Amazon. I've written a series of novels that take place in a haunted forest. Basically, I write books for people who enjoy 20th century monster movies. And my name again is Paul Edwards. My books are the Mourners Woods books. They're for sale on Amazon. Thanks for letting me talk to you some about Day of the Triffids. I'll see you in Mourners Woods.